Doubles and Coffee, if you listen to the PNM, and I mean all the PNM, the old decrepit runaway quitter Rowley, Penelope, Marvelous Marvan, whoever they may be, you would wonder if they had been in government for 9.5 unfettered years and boasting about we in charge, it's our time now, and we in your face like a jumbie from Lekoto. Listen first and foremost to Penelope Beckles, who went USA with she visa. Somebody say they invite she to a conference. Me, I know what they invite she for. They can't even invite she to Balize House to take control of she few parliamentarians to control the men of the PNM. We could deal with that at a later time. But here, Penelope Beckles, the leader of the opposition, the decimated PNM, a PNM, you know, listen to this PNM lady. Opposition leader Penelope Beckles is again calling for a national reckoning on crime, warning that fair, poor detection, and delayed justice are eroding public confidence and worsening the country's security crisis and its reputation internationally. This from a woman who sat in a cabinet of the PNM. As we lost visas, we had to pay for visas. Her ministerial colleagues on companies with gangsters, we had to go England. England say all they had to pay for visa. They had warnings coming out of Canada, USA, UK, everybody telling their citizens, stay away from Trinidad and Tobago. Death, destruction, murder. Murder rate records hit under PNM while she was a minister. She was in the cabinet with Small Pin as Minister of National Security 2018-2019. 519 murders, 539 murders each year, only beaten by PNM, 550 murders in 2008. Then she sat there as Fitzgerald, Ethelbert, narcolepsy, sleepy, sativa, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy on his lap, was the Minister of National Security, and it hit 622, 605 murders, kidnappings, robberies, home invasions. They sat there and did nothing. They made excuses. People, foreign direct investment running, investment across the board, people being taxed at home, extortion, also the increased cost of business to buy cameras and security systems. While that was going on, she was a minister. She come out now and telling the government when the PNM spend $11 million without following procurement for a CARICOM summit to say, wow, crime is a public health emergency, and talk a set of nonsense while doing nothing. She have the audacity to talk. These PNM, they take out two things from Balize House. They take out the shame and the conscience. They have a surgery once you join the PNM and go into that Balize House talking about crime. As the PNM throughout history. And then you see an editorial from The Guardian talking about, just like this, trying to promote the PNM messaging that crime is a relay and you have to do the work as you get the baton from the previous administration. Every time the PNM get the baton on crime, crime gets worse. Crime went up after the coup from 1991 to 1995 under the PNM to 266 murders per year. Under Bastio Pandey between 1995 and 1999-2000, he brought it down with the UNC to 63 murders per year. Then the PNM came in with the 1818 nonsense with A&R Robinson talking about moral and spiritual values, and that took it up by 2008 to 550 murders. Kamla Prasad Bisesa came in May 2010 and got the murder rate down under 400 from upwards of 550. 1 year was down to 373 and it was trending downwards. In comes Rowley and the PNM in September 2015, and by 2018 the murder rate was back up to 519, then 539, then upwards in 2022, 2023, 2024, over 600. And Penelope Beckles had the audacity to talk about we need a reckoning on crime and national policy and so on. She sat in the cabinet as people died left, right, and center, and criminals and criminality took over. Penelope Beckles. Shh. Hear the next one now. MARVA and Marvelous Marva Gonzalez. And with Renessa Cutting from TV6 doing a report talking about MTS and the wages of the MTS workers are late now and there are problems being paid, and trying to imply that somehow that has something to do with the current UNC administration. Renessa Cutting, by the way, TV6 reporter, are you in receipt of an HDC house? When did you get that HDC house, Renetta Cutting? Was PNM in power when you got that house? How long had you applied for that house before you were so lucky to get a house from the PNM? How much is that house worth? When did you apply? What was your reference number? How were you approved? Were you approved on random selection, ministerial recommendation? Renessa Cutting and One Caribbean Media and TV6. I just have those questions where I will deal with that at a later date, because anybody who presents a position that right now MTS workers are under stress to get their wages and it cannot be paid because of the UNC had to be either an escapee from St. Anne's or deeply rooted in the Balisay juice, because the reason MTS and many other agencies are nearly bordering on insolvency is the irresponsible spending and policies of the PNM. The PNM Ministry of Education, the PNM ministries did not pay MTS, and they are trying to present a picture when an overdraft, all the MTS did and continue to do while the chairman Jackie Lazarus was sending money for Foster Cummins in Venture Credit Union was increase the overdraft. So all they were doing was not collecting their money from the government and putting MTS into further and further debt. An overdraft facility only operates for the time that it is approved for. So therefore, once it has reached its limit, there is no more money there. So the inherent weaknesses that existed by the PNM because of lack of collection, lack of payment from PNM ministers and PNM ministries to MTS, the problem is there. The PNM put plaster on gaping chop wound and then come to ball. Look, the UNC ain't pay the workers. Listen to this Marvin Gonzalez. Listen to this clown, this idiot, this dishonest, pathological imbecile. He asked yesterday, how come the National Maintenance, Training and Security Company Limited, MTS, which was paying the salaries of its workers up to April 28, was now having difficulty meeting its salary commitments? Padarat told them and responded to the Renessa Cutting TV6 fake story, which gives you the impression that it's a UNC problem. Padarat said there were outstanding receivables. You know what that means? Outstanding money owed to MTS from a long time. The PNM in charge 9.5 years, amounting to $700 million. Gonzalez acknowledged this, but blaming the UNC. Yes, Marva, that's why people had no water under you. Gonzalez acknowledged that ministries were sometimes slow to pay MTS, sometimes slow. The PNM ministries did not pay MTS. So how MTS going to have money to pay their workers when you keep borrowing and overdraft? Where you feel overdraft is a way to run a country, to run a company? MTS was paying salaries up to the time the PNM demitted office. Why all of a sudden, says Marvelous Marva, hey boy, and now I understand why Eclipse Eli had to get a bus pass, yes? Why all of a sudden it is a problem? How come the PNM managed, despite the difficulties, to pay salaries? And because of prudent financial management, the PNM government was able to meet all critical expenditure, especially operational expenditure, especially payment of salaries before it left office. Really? When you are doing nonsense, when you are utilizing the savings that Kamala Prasad Bissessa left there in September 2015 in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, in the Trinidad and Tobago reserves, all of the U.S. reserves, and you are drawing down and borrowing and increasing the debt to GDP ratio and using overdraft facilities with board without cabinet approval, when you are as irresponsible as the PNM, then eventually when the money dries up, when the opportunity to create credit dries up, when the inability to borrow more dries up, there will be problems because the fundamental economic indices are not okay. The payments are not okay. The mismanagement must come up to some time. You had 9.5 years to drag the economy down, to put Trinidad and Tobago in an irresponsible fiscal position. And now you claiming, oh, we did well, we was managing. You were digging a grave for Trinidad and Tobago, and the people have rejected the PNM, and the UNC will fix it. And it will be fixed properly from fundamentals, from payment, from fiscal management, from accounting properly, from auditing properly. This is why the Auditor General could not, for 2 years, the last 2 years of the PNM, could not give an opinion on the accounts because the PNM could not provide the information. That's why they had to try to increase by ghost revenue, to increase it by $3.6 billion to pretend to the population that the deficit was smaller than what it was. This is the height of irresponsibility, the height of disgusting incompetence from the PNM, and they arrogantly coming to you, the people, to talk nonsense. Here the next one, Keith Rowley say, talking about, oh gosh, or they don't tell me that now use the Privy Council, and then talking about, well, forget that part about the Privy Council, because Rowley had to be a clown, talking about CCJ and then saying, well, the local court, it was a simple case, how could they get it so wrong? The fact of the matter is, the Privy Council is absolutely necessary because of the Balizé juice that extends throughout every independent institution in Trinidad and Tobago. So in cases that have political flavor or any sort of politics in it, locally, people cannot believe and trust that they will get a fair shake because PNM judges forget that their brother was on a PNM board who brought a case against a UNC, EMBD, and so on and so forth. So the UNC requires for political cases to be judged and adjudicated fairly. The Privy Council, Rowley go on there to try and keep his land from somebody. That's his business. But hear what Rowley say when he up there now. Rowley said, like everybody else, he had to apply for a visa, pay for a visa, and wait to be granted permission to enter England to go to the highest court in the land of my country. And I, says Rowley, and I find that offensive. It is galling to me to have to apply for a visa to go to my country's highest court, which is in London. It's galling to you. You have to apply like everybody else. The only difference is that everybody else did not and was not responsible for the UK slapping a visa fee on Trinidad and Tobago and making citizens apply. You were in charge. You were the government. It's your ministers that had companies in England with gangsters. It's your administration that oversaw men leaving here and fleeing there and calling and claiming asylum in England and the UK. It is your administration that was irresponsible. It is your administration that did nothing and did not heed the warnings of the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom. It is you, Rowley, who caused the whole country to have to pay for visa. And now you come to cry about, oh God, you had to pay for one too. Rowley, you are such an evil, wicked imbecile. It is not funny. So I just let all your people know, all your citizens know, keep all these PNM, from Penelope Beckers, who now know the crime situation bad, to Marvelous Marvin, who now find out, but wait now, we were not doing well. We weren't paying our bills. And eventually, the hole and the bucket of overdraft will dry up. And then Rowley, who's sad and crying that he had to pay for visa when he was running the country. And for the first time in our history, Trinbagonians, all of us, have to pay for visa. But Rowley crying. Well, all you go and buy Kleenex to them PNM and leave them where they is. So bless, understand, or frightened. Kamala Prasad Bissessa and her ministers are here. And Faris Arawi, just, boy, I wish I had 2 doubles and coffee this morning. Johnny Sukaran, boy, when I thought, it can't get worse, Johnny Sukaran, it just did. It must be hard to go through life as such a consummate dunce. Faris Arawi, or everybody else.